The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, what is it like to live unhoused in Tucson? Meet Alina, a local high school student who created a social media project called Hidden Voices to find out. Meet Irfan Sarwar, who is dedicated to creating interfaith connections and showing others that race and religion can bring us closer together in times of need. And Quinton Antone, a multimedia artist of Tohono O'odham and Kiowa heritage, tells about incorporating ceremonial elements into secular art to make spiritual themes more accessible. Those stories are next on Arizona Spotlight. Many of us would probably say that empathy and compassion are in far too short of a supply these days. But next we'll meet a local youth who has made it her mission to bring more of both to the streets of Tucson. Unlike many other high school students, Alina Rafiath spends her spare time looking for ways to help people in need. She makes hygiene kits and healthy snack packs to hand out. And her new project, called Hidden Voices, is a series of interviews with people who are surviving in Tucson while being homeless. The values that she holds come from her Muslim faith and her loving family. They all join Alina in volunteering every Sunday at a special place in downtown Tucson.
The Z Mansion is basically a community center that supports people experiencing homelessness and poverty. They provide food, service, clothing, and first aid clinic. It has been active for 25 years under the organization Workship, which is kind of a mission that believes conversations about homelessness need to be less about the concept and more about the people. And that's basically the work that they've been doing for the past 25 years.
So when you conceived of the idea of doing these interviews, do you remember what it felt like to do your first interview? Was it intimidating?
Yes, it was very intimidating, but I also understood that I've been working on my public speaking throughout high school. I've went to a debate club and I would do some speeches outside of school, and I realized that I liked that personal interaction, and so the interviews were the perfect way to get that exact story from the person you want to learn about.
And what are the kinds of things you're interested in when you are talking to these folks?
When I'm talking to my guests, I like to ask about their current living situation. A lot of them have a unique story and a background as to why they became homeless, and I like to talk about that as well. Another thing I like to focus on, which is also an underlying purpose of my project, is that I like to focus on healthcare and healthcare disparities. So focusing on their specific experience with that healthcare system can show the inequalities, but it can also show the hardships that they go through as a person as well.
Let's hear a little bit from one of the interviews that you've conducted next. This is with someone named Joshua.
Yeah, I'll just speak by myself, and it's difficult. Aside from struggling against the elements, it's what can I say? It's almost hellish, I guess. But the good thing with people is I still get better people coming through sometimes.
Even people who are financially stable and have housing have to deal with tremendous difficulties. And in Tucson, we live in an extreme environment. So what kind of effect do you think that has on our unhoused population?
My guests that I've spoken to, at least, the heat really affects them in terms of their physical health and their mental health. So the heat can often make you angry and not in the best state. And in terms of physical health, if you're dehydrated, if you don't have access to water, you don't have access to cold towels, or you've been sweating in your clothes all day, that can really affect the cleanliness, which can lead to your physical health as well. And you can have heat strokes, and you could pass out as well.
What are some of the survival skills that you've seen people who are living unhoused develop to make it through a Tucson summer?
I've seen many of them take these cold press towels. So we'll dip them in water at the Z Mansion, and you can put them on your neck or on your forehead. In terms of monsoon season, we use garbage bags as ponchos. So we will cut little armholes and they can slip them over their heads, and that protects them from the extreme rain. That's how we kind of deal with the weather as best as we can at the Z Mansion. But there are patients that I see on a regular basis, and one of them, his name is David. I've treated David with leg wounds many times. I've actually learned about bacterial infections through him. Yesterday, I saw him after weeks, and his leg infection actually looked better. But I noticed that he has a colostomy bag, and he did not have a bag. He used a rubber medical glove to keep things together. And on his leg, he used duct tape as his wound dressing. And I noticed that that directly shows the lack of access to proper health care and supplies. And that's a gap that we also need to start bridging.
Because I assume that you're working with a very stressed budget to be able to afford any of these services.
Especially with budget cuts recently, we have to use as many resources as we can under a certain budget to help as many people as we can.
Another interview that's on your Instagram page right now is with a guy named Daniel, and he's very philosophical about his situation, and his attitude is very positive. And he talks about one of the things that he thinks is essential to survival is blankets.
Well, right now I'm living on the street, and I've been living on the street for a while now. I have this little cart full of blankets and a tent, some tarps and stuff. I like to sleep in front of storefronts. There's light and there's people on the street and I feel comfortable around. When that doesn't work out, if I can't sleep in front of a store or whatever, I'll sleep in a tent out in the desert, but I'd rather not do that. I'd rather sleep in the city on the street. It's easier for me.
Yes, and I also wanted to repeat that Daniel is a very positive person. Every time I see him, he has a large smile on his face, like ready to greet you. About the blankets, I agree that the blanket can be protection, comfort, and warmth. And I think Daniel likes to collect them, or he thinks that they're very important because with the belongings, they obviously have their essentials, and the blankets is one of them, as I've seen with many guests carrying around.
The stigma surrounding homelessness is enormous in our culture. One of the people you spoke with, named Apache, had a lot to say about that. And here's just a small sample.
Whatever faults we might have, we're all humans. Instead of being so divided, and having a job is one of them. Most people will not hire you if they find out you're homeless.
When Apache talks about homelessness and there being many people who don't seem to like homeless people, as he said, one thing he's referring to is that they do fine people for trespassing or resting somewhere. He said, how can they pay those fines when they don't have a job? They're also denied basic rights. They can't use a bathroom indoors. They can't even go outside comfortably, and then they get shamed for doing whatever they can inside, outside. So it's a vicious cycle, and having that understanding can help that stereotype that people usually do see about them.
In your role as a volunteer at the Z Mansion and as the originator of the Hidden Voices Project, what is one change that you can pinpoint that you think would really help Tucson's homeless population?
Based on the purpose of my project, I think people need compassion and empathy. So putting yourself in their shoes as much as you can. This project wants to dignify their voices. So listen to them like a friend. Sit there and listen to all that they have to say, even if they're just rambling on about something. That's also one thing about the training that I took. And being trained at the Z Mansion allowed me to be able to sit and listen to someone's story with patience. I think a lot of people need to understand that homelessness isn't about bad people or bad choices. It's often the result of inadequate systems. Some people just don't have a safety net to lie back down onto after something goes wrong. So I think awareness can help bridge that gap. And I think the more people listen to these videos and sit there, watch the whole video about someone talking about their experience, that bridges the gap so we can call for advocacy.
Another thing people can find on your Instagram page is some informational videos about, in this case, the topic COPD. How did that become something that you became concerned about?
So COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. It is a progressive lung disease, and that lung disease is very common among the unhoused population due to many factors. I actually have a video that covers the triggers that worsen and exacerbate the lung disease. And that's actually a very common phenomenon among the unhoused population, where diseases are exacerbated because of their living situations.
And where can our listeners find these videos and your interviews for Hidden Voices?
These videos are on Instagram. The account is at Hidden Voices Project, and they can scroll through the videos, and there is a series for COPD, there are a series for the guests that I've interviewed, and there are more to come as well.
And Alina Rafief, I have to ask you to tell our listeners, how old are you?
I'm 17.
Thanks to my guest, Alina Rafief. Let us know if you'd be interested in hearing more Hidden Voices on this show. You can post a comment on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. Building bridges comes naturally to my next guest, and he uses his skills to help create interfaith connections every day. Irfan Sarwar demonstrates to others that race and religion can actually bring us closer together in times of need, when being divisive helps no one. Here is his story.
I came to America, landed in Chicago in 1987, lived there until 2011 and moved to Arizona for work. Lived here until 2022. End of June, I moved back to Chicago, but I'm still in touch with the community and I still do activities here.
So doing interfaith work isn't your only vocation. What do you do to pay the bills?
Interfaith work for a very long time, I've been volunteering for that, but I work in IT field. I have worked as a programmer, developer, project manager, business analyst, a CTO, and currently I'm working in the nonprofit world as a CEO.
Well, where did the inspiration to do your interfaith work come from?
I grew up in Pakistan's northern areas where a consortium of different companies was building a dam, like Hoover Dam. They were Italians, French, and Americans. They built a church for their needs. And I asked older people in my community back then when I was in like 6th grader, and what is it? They said, just don't go close to this building. That is the area which was for some time under Taliban influence later on. But it's a tribal area, back then not very educated people living in the tribes, rural areas. But I was curious. And I said, why shouldn't I go close to this building? And they said, God knows what they're doing in there, but they will pull you in and who knows what's going to happen. So I was so scared that I would go around it going towards the market and add another like a block or two. When I came to America at the age of 23 and a half, one of my teachers from Belize, a very dear person, very nice, good Christian, he asked me if I was a Muslim, and I said, yeah. He said, oh, we have some Muslims in our country, but you guys are kind of, secretive. God knows what you... That reminded me of my childhood incident. And I said, why don't you visit my mosque and I visit your church? So we did. And I said, let's take the unknown out of the equation and know each other. That's how I got into it. I thought people need to know each other.
What was something that you look back on that was significantly different when you visited a Christian church as opposed to a Muslim church? What was something that surprised you or something you always remember about that experience?
Couple of things. One, the concept of worship. For example, in our mosque, during the actual prayer, we wouldn't sing any rhymes or anything. So that was kind of different. I was expecting them, like us, to stand up and go through certain bodily gestures. That didn't happen. Secondly, we also asked for donations. But, the basket was sent around and I was so embarrassed. I didn't have any money in my pocket. But later on, I was told that you can donate or you can take money if you need. So I said, well, next time I'll take.
Irfan, who is it that you're mostly working with now in the interfaith capacity? Is it youth or adults?
We work mostly with adults. We do work with youth in our own community to prepare them how to interact with people of other faith. and not have confrontation. We realize we are all human beings. We are born in certain families. We grew up in different areas. Our experiences are different. But at the end, how we impact the human life, how we impact the social system we are living in. So you may have a faith, you may not have a faith. You may have a divine faith we consider, or faith that is not considered divine by some. But at the end, what is it that you're doing for the society? So we educate them about this. Adults, when we meet them, we mostly answer questions about Islam so we can remove any misconceptions and bring people closer.
What's another example of a way that you think your interfaith work can help a person or add to their life?
America is a plural society. Prophet Muhammad, when he created small government in a city of Medina in Saudi Arabia, it was a plural society. There were Jewish tribes, there were Christians, there were star worshippers, and people who were not in any faith, they were idol worshippers. But he brought them together to move everybody in one direction for the betterment of the society. America is a country which is international country. People from every village in my country are here. That's so interesting. We need to understand each other and learn to live together despite our theological differences.
In the time that you've been doing this kind of work, have you seen the importance of faith increase or decrease?
Importance of faith has increased, even though we have seen youngsters leave faith or for a while become atheist or faithless. But the difficulties we eventually run into, including myself when I was young, you have to eventually start thinking, there got to be some system that gets me out of unnecessary problems. And you have to think, and whatever matches it depends, right? Upbringing, how you value, what things in life you value more than others. And then you adhere to one. You have to have a system, set of beliefs. So I don't see religion as like a religion is a biblical thing or Quranic thing or this. I see religion more than as a set of rules or values that an individual lives by. That's it. So you gotta have a set of rules to live by.
But based on what you're taught as a young person, or even where you grow up, your feelings about certain social issues may be very deeply ingrained in your personality. When you encounter that sort of thing where people aren't willing to come together on social issues because of what they've been taught, what would be your approach?
We come across this situation all the time in our own community, Muslim, or even with those who are not Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if the driving force for the person is to have a society where we live together, then you're going to find a way to do it, to explain things in different ways. So a Christian would have a Bible, a Jewish person would have a Torah, I have Quran, and others may have other books or no books. But my book, whatever it says, is for me. I just can't simply quote my book to somebody else. I have understood it and somehow chosen to live by that. Then it's between me and others how I convey it. So statistics and facts and figures are there. We should and we can engage in educational discussions or intellectual discussions. But I think it should stop at that. We should not assume others are wrong or they have the intention to go against me and all that stuff. Rather, we should say whoever is whatever, we have to find a way to live together. There is always commonalities. Growing up, I'm 60 years old. I've grown up hoping after this political issue or this international problem, the world will be okay. It just doesn't end. So sometimes I feel very disappointed and hopeless until I attend an interfaith event and I say, you know what, there are a lot of individuals and groups, they want to do something positive together. They present the hope, which keeps me going.
I can only imagine that you have a lot of interesting, funny, and touching stories about people who have come together despite having regional or religious differences. Can you share an example of that, about where you've seen interfaith lift people up?
Several years ago, I was sent an email from the mosque that a person has sent $10 donation, a Christian, and said, I don't really like you, But today I thought if God allows you to live around here, then I should make peace with you. So I contacted him and I said, I want to meet you. We decided to meet at a restaurant in the north side of Tucson. He was a veteran. Eventually we met that day. I think he was very concerned what I was going to do. I was very concerned what he was going to think of me because he looked very concerned. And in 2 minutes we were talking, and I think no more than 5-10 minutes we were friends, very friendly. That gentleman visited the mosque almost every evening during the month of Ramadan. I think his picture is still on the website of Muslim Community Center. So something that started so strangely ended up making friends with him. He built some laser detection stuff for kids so that when you open the door or you cross the laser, it beeps. He paid for that thing, and he built like 15, 18 for kids and showed them and all that. Amazing.
My guest was Irfan Sarwar. He reminds others that the Muslim Community Center of Tucson is open to all. Next, learn about a fine artist with deep local roots and how he blends the spiritual and secular aspects of modern indigenous life across many different media in his Tucson studio.
You need to have some kind of lubricant. So this is, I'm using a wax just from a candle. I am doing a basket design. Fine silver is really malleable. And so it's made out of fine silver. I'm gonna cut a little bit more off of it. Quinton Antone. Good evening, my name is Quinton Antone, and I am from the village of San Miguel, which is in the district of Chukukuk. I did not know that I wanted to be a jeweler. Kind of struggled on what I wanted to do. I had a aunt who was married to an artist whose name was Tucson. I saw him create so many pieces of art. A lot of local artists, they used to come over. I remember them showing jewelry they made, and I was just so fascinated. It's like, oh man, how did you do this? I am part Kiowa. Occasionally we'll do something related in the Kiowa part, which is in the Oklahoma Southern Plains tribe. I stick to more of the natural elements of this region. I always liked doing art, but I never thought as me, pursuing it, because I thought that I didn't need somebody to teach me how to do art. I thought I knew it all. You're kind of arrogant. I took some jewelry classes, took some sculpture classes. Once I chose art as my major, things just took off from there. A lot of my work has designs, imagery of O'odham culture. It's a way to bring awareness about the O'odham people. I do a few techniques. One is overlay. They have a sheet metal and then they cut out a design, solder it to another piece. I like to incorporate stones, turquoise, different types of seashells. Every piece that I make has a little bit of a good thought, a prayer that I put into it. Whoever shall possess it, whoever shall use it, but have a good heart, good thoughts, good way, protect them. I also want somebody who's going to use it and appreciate it and also know the meaning behind the symbols and the stones. For us, O'odhams and our ancestor, the Hohokam, one of the first to do inlay thousands of years ago. As a descendant of them, I tried to bring that back. And I really, at one point, want to do a whole inlay piece of O'odham, symbolism, design. I also want to teach my niece, my daughter, people that want to learn, so that they can continue the craft and be able to not only sustain themselves, financially, but also as a way to continue to represent our culture in this way. I would say to the upcoming jewelers or artists that are coming, don't give up. There's been many times where, my stuff didn't match up to, the status quo, I guess. And now with social media platforms, a lot of people, they look at, other people and they see that, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that, oh, they're better than me. They lose confidence in themselves to do that. That's what I was doing to myself. So I had to take myself off of, social media or Instagram and stop looking at those and start just kind of really creating from my heart and try to bring that to life. Sometimes I won't have silver, I'll have scraps, but I'll look at the scraps and I'll look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, this kind of looks like a lizard, and it kind of like speaks to me in a way. And so I'll kind of try to bring that out, even whether it be a stone, whether it be a shell, whether it be the silver. I kind of like have that relationship with these elements. Those who are upcoming, I would just like to tell them, trust the process. And if you really have passion for something you love to do, then the universe is going to make a path for you in that way.
That story was produced by Uzlam Uzgar for AZPM's Arizona Illustrated, which airs weekly on PBS 6. You can also see the story that you just heard on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. Production assistance by Zoe Giuliano. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.